Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Animal Based Dad podcast. This is the show where, between my guest interviews with subject matter experts and topic specific deep dives, the aim is to arm you with actionable insights and information on how to prioritize your metabolic health and improve your overall health and well being. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Animal Based Dad podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Duplessis, and we've got the fantastic Mr. Toby Swallow back for part 2 of our little mini-series. Welcome back, Toby.
Thanks for having me back, Ricky.
You're most welcome. So, Toby, last week we spoke about why movement is important, both exercise and non-exercise, and we went through your use it or lose it principle, which I've already had some positive feedback on this morning after posting the episode up. So for this week, I want to build on that and just talk a little bit about what kinds of exercise and movement people should focus on. And I think we've got 3 key areas. We've got non-exercise movement, which should make up the majority of our movement throughout the day. Certainly, it's not adequate if you're doing an hour worth of exercise, but then you're sedentary the rest of the time. You should be spending the bulk of your waking hours with some movement, so we'll go through that. Then we'll talk about exercise itself, so what sorts of exercise people should focus on in terms of just maintaining that function, that joint functionality, the body functionality that we were speaking about last week. And then lastly, for those of us that are into sports or hobbies that are physical in nature, the hobby or sport specific exercise that we may look at including to make sure that we remain as optimally functional as possible for that sport or activity. So with that said, I wonder, Toby, if you might talk to us a little bit about non-exercise movement. We covered walking in good detail last week, but what else? Because walking is not always practical. Let's take a sedentary day job, a desk job, for example. What kind of movement can people think about including to help them not be completely sedentary during the working hours?
Okay. I think, first of all, before we go into that, I want to break down these 3 different areas because I think we need to have a basic understanding of this. So if you go and speak to most adults out there, most people will describe themselves as I'm fit and healthy. Okay, most people do. But then we need to ask the question of by what standard? And most people will turn around and say, because I do X. Now, whether that's because they play 5-a-side football at the weekend, because they go to the gym or they run or cycle a few days in the week, or because they walk the dog every single day, or because they do a manual job. Let's say they are a scaffolder. Yes. But if I know you manage a team of people.
Mm-hmm.
So if we take a general employee as an example in a company, a lot of people will simply turn around and say that they are good at their job.
Yeah.
And some people will say, I'm good at my job because I turn up 5 days a week. I'm there just before 9 o'clock and I leave after 5 o'clock. But actually, in the eyes of a line manager, have you met your objectives? Have you achieved? There are certain KPIs that you need to deliver and then you'll have different ratings to determine if somebody is good at their job or not. Simply turning up is the opportunity.
Yes.
You might be very busy in the day, but the direction of that business could be misdirected. Yes, the same we can apply to all of these 3 areas as well. So if somebody says, look, I'm fit and I'm healthy, we got to ask by what standard? Your own standard may not actually meet the bare minimum standards out there. And that's a really uncomfortable truth for many. And a case in point, so last Friday I was out on an afternoon walk and I bumped into some parents of a child in the same class as my daughter. And how you doing? And it turned out that he'd been in hospital, spent all day in the hospital previous day due to high blood pressure. How high? I can't remember the exact numbers, but they were sky high. Systolic blood pressure was over 230.
Wow.
And it was like, holy shit, you're a walking stroke at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and he said, oh, well, it's all right because I've been given tablets. He said, I'm also fit, so I'm all right. I went, by what standard here? And he said, well, I play football every weekend. I went,
This episode is brought to you by Biosim Technologies. At Biosim Technologies, my team and I are creating intelligent, AI-driven solutions for human metabolic health, which empower our users to embrace a biology-first approach to their lifestyle, health, and wellness. We're getting ready for a crowdfunding campaign, which launches on Cyber Monday. The crowdfunding is to help us fund our beta development of our psychology-enhanced nutrition coach. To find out more, please follow the link to the Biosim Technologies Substack in the episode description, where you can sign up for our newsletter, receive our regular updates, and all the details on the up-and-coming event.
what's the standard of fitness here? Simply turning up to play football, you're running around a pitch once a week for however many minutes, and I'm not saying that that doesn't have a positive benefit, but what's the actual fitness standard here?
Mm.
And clearly you're not fit, clearly you're not healthy if your blood pressure is that high. I got a text off him yesterday, oh, I'm all good now, my blood pressure is 140 over 100. Well,
That's
that's still high
still
blood
not great.
pressure, and he's heavily medicated to bring that blood
Yeah.
pressure down to that level anyway. So there's a disillusion going on here, but there's also a huge amount of disconnect from reality and facts as well. So I'll start with sport. Sport fundamentally is about winning,
Yeah.
nothing else. You can actually be healthy to play a sport, but not healthy as a human being.
Yeah. Yeah. And pro athletes are, yeah,
Yes.
pro athletes can be a good example of
Athletes go down a rabbit hole and they will sacrifice other qualities to excel in one specific area.
Yeah.
Underneath winning, the primary objective of sport, you have skill and strategy. Martial arts, ball sports are a great example of that. You need to be good at what you do, a high degree of skill. You need a strategy, whether that's a ball game or a martial art, you need a degree of strategy to win as well.
Mm.
You will, depending upon the sport, need different components of fitness to help you excel at that sport. But
Mhm.
in some sports, you don't need to be super fit to excel.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously, the higher you go in all sports, the higher the fitness demands at that level. But you can't compare the fitness of a 3,000-meter runner to that of a Premiership footballer,
Yeah.
for example. Okay. So sport is sport. If you're doing a sport and calling yourself fit, but you're not doing the cross training to drive the fitness qualities you need to excel at that sport, you're just
Mhm.
simply playing a sport. I'm not saying that doesn't have a benefit, but it's largely driven by, look, I'm doing it because I enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean to say you're fit. Unfortunately, I do see people, particularly on LinkedIn, we both spend a lot of time there. I've seen people, guys, middle-aged guys say, I've had a stroke, but I'm so fit and I'm so strong because I play a sport. Actually, no. I can see from your photos you're very overweight. Yeah, but
Mhm.
actually doing that sport is nothing to do with health.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you do that once or twice a week, maybe something midweek, and then you have a match at the weekend. You're not even meeting the minimum recommendations there.
Mm.
So we then go to the opposite side of general activity, whether it's dog walking, you're doing your housework, your garden work, household maintenance. Maybe you've got a project and you're digging, I don't know, a new rockery or a
Mm.
garden pond, and you're shifting 7 tons of soil in the garden. You're doing something, you're moving, great. No doubt your heart rate is going to be getting up. You're going to get some degree of fatigue from that, but that doesn't necessarily mean you are fit. You're just able to do that.
Yeah.
We then have structured exercise. And there are lots of different types of exercise. And not all exercise is created equally. And exercise can range from whether you lift weights, run, cycle, row, you want to go and do Pilates, yoga, you want to go and stand on your head and do whatever. There's lots of different stuff. Okay. So if we were to focus on the non-exercise individuals and the desk worker, simple things. I think that getting the steps in is a really simple thing for 99.99% of the population. If you're in an office building, if you need to go and make yourself a coffee, try and maybe go to the kitchen a little bit further away.
Yeah.
Maybe if you need the toilet, instead of going to the nearest toilet, can you go to the floor above or the floor below and
Using
use
the stairs, yeah.
Instead of picking up the phone to ring your colleague on the other side of the office, why don't you get up and walk across to them?
Yeah.
When you're having your lunch, instead of eating at your desk, go and eat in your car. It means you've got to leave your desk and walk back to the car.
Yeah.
So lots of simple things there that you could be doing. When you arrive at work, same with shopping, we tend to try and park as close as possible to the entrance. Park as far away as possible. Just those extra 2 or 3 minutes of walking add up at the end of the day, because you've got to do the return journey at the end of the day as well. Yes. So there are really simple things that you can do to raise your general activity. Try and set a reminder that maybe at least once an hour, instead of focusing on sitting for 4 straight hours at your desk, get up and move every hour. If you're on the phone, walk and talk around the office rather than just sat at the desk. Obviously, a Zoom call is a little bit different. Yes,
True.
but it's looking for those low-hanging fruits that you can do to raise your general activity. At home, we now have apps where we can adjust our lighting or adjust our central heating, and it's very easy from the comfort of our own home. Look, get up, walk across the other side of the room and turn the light switch on, turn it off.
Yeah.
Whilst it might only be 20 steps, all of these little things add up.
Correct. Yeah.
Throughout the day. Okay. So we do want to be moving more. If we think back to human evolution, we may have had to walk 6 miles twice a day just to go and gather water.
Yeah.
But now we walk to a kitchen to turn on a tap. So we're not getting that movement. It's there. It's to hand very, very easily. So look for ways of doing more. I work from home. So whilst I have a downstairs toilet, I also have an upstairs bathroom. So if I want to go to the toilet, I'll go upstairs.
Yeah. Nice.
Something really simple. So I'm just getting a little bit more movement in. My laptop that I'm on at the moment, have a little wobble there, but I can actually take my laptop and go and sit on the floor rather than being sat in a chair.
Yeah.
But even if you've got a standing desk, great idea. You don't need a walking machine underneath your standing desk. Standing too long you're not getting the movement variability and variety. Bring it down. Why can't you kneel in front of your desk? Half kneeling, tall kneeling, again, go to the floor. And that creates a huge number of options. Watching TV in the evening to relax. Okay. But we tend to kind of lounge in our comfy chair. Why can't we sit on the floor? That's not going to be as comfortable, but what it will naturally do is prompt you to move every few minutes, to find another position, whether you lie on your front, you sit cross-legged, straddle, you sit 90-90, half combat, you slouch on a side, doesn't really matter, but you're moving, you're getting that variety in as well. Because it's very tempting to lie in front of a movie for 2 hours.
It is, yeah.
Comfortable, and you just don't move apart from reaching for the next beer or crisps.
Yeah. I've started sitting on the floor at home in the evenings as well, just from the perspective of trying to open my hips up. Because I've noticed with my surfing, it might stem from my ankles, thinking about it. I think my ankles are less mobile than what they used to be. And that in turn impacts the way my knees are moving, impacts the way my hips are moving in and out of maneuvers as you compress and extend along the wave. But little things like sitting with your legs crossed, just that discomfort that you get in the hips, that's your hips opening back up to where they kind of should be able to reach comfortably. And yeah,
You can
it's
use
interesting.
cushions to sit on, or yoga blocks, a low stool, and there's just so many options on the floor
Mm.
as well. The floor is an amazing tool. It's very low tech. We all have a piece of flooring,
Yeah.
but we think we need some sort of fancy device or chair. So instead of more support, think about actually less support to create greater variety and adaptability within our own
Yeah.
body. But also look at the feet, not rather than just the ankle and the toes as well, because modern footwear, we tend to crunch up or squash the toes
Yeah.
together. They're overly supportive, so whether the foot can pronate or supinate these days, we tend to lose that ability. A lot of people rely on orthotics for flat feet, but I've not seen many true flat feet
Yeah.
in people. So they do have the ability to form an arch. It's just that they have weak feet due to modern footwear.
Mm.
Not in every case, but in a lot of cases there. And you can save yourself hundreds of pounds just by strengthening your feet rather than
Yeah.
relying on orthotics, which is another crutch. So does that cover your non-exercise activity?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's a good range of little things that people can do throughout the day in increments that over time build up just to break up being completely sedentary. And you've had some great suggestions there. Walk to the further bathroom or make your coffee upstairs. Use the stairs when you get to work rather than the elevator all the time. Little things like that add up. I don't go into the office so often anymore. I work remote myself. But when I do go into the office and I have to get the train into London, I will stand on the train on purpose and try not to hold on to something just to get a little bit of core engagement and get that little bit of because it's fine adjustments the whole time to keep your balance. And again, going back to surfing, I kind of like that because in my head I'm simulating a little bit of the balance that you would need for surfing. But just simple things like stand instead of sit all the way in. And then the train's moving. So you're having to engage your core and do those micro movements of your hips and your ankles and your knees to keep yourself balanced. Like there's so many little things that people can do throughout the day just to stop themselves from being completely sedentary. But it takes effort in this day and age because we've become so good at outsourcing all movement.
It starts at school.
Mm.
I know you have young children, Ricky.
Yeah.
And our children just don't stop. They're constantly fidgeting. And what do we do as parents?
Stop fidgeting.
Yeah, so I think sitting at a dining room table is a great example because kids might be there, they're kneeling on the chair, they're kind of maybe squatting on the chair, they're constantly shifting. As parents, we're trying to teach them manners and decorum. And
Yeah.
when we take them out to a restaurant, you want well-behaved children. And it's like, sit still, stop fidgeting, sit down properly on your chair. Okay,
Yeah.
we're kind of knocking this out, but they enter the education system and they're sat in a chair in their lessons. And again, it's this sit still. It's about this element of control and obedience. Okay, so but movement helps to generate the blood moving around, but also to the body. So movement is going to help you concentrate or help your
Yeah.
ability to focus with that fresh oxygenated blood. We go through the education system, we go to uni, we get our jobs, so we're spending more and more and more time as we get older sat down. Yes. So it's modern society, particularly in the West, is centered around sitting. And when your kids were babies, from learning to lift their head and support their own head. Then they learn to sit up, develop this upper torso strength, and then they kind of go into this rocking position, learn to crawl, and start to walk. But somewhere along their lines there, when they go from crawling to walking, they'll start to fall or get into a squat position. And they'll do everything from play in that position, they'll fill their nappies, they will have fun, eat maybe in that position. But when we go into sitting, we kind of think we lose the ability to squat. But there are many cultures around the world that still, even in adulthood, rely on the full resting squat as a position for socializing, working, defecating, even giving birth for women as well, and lots of other activities. But in the West, we're civilized, we use chairs.
Yeah.
So we kind of spend less and less time in a full resting squat position, think, well, it's because I'm an adult, or I've never actually been able to. You did when you were a toddler. You
Yeah.
just grew out of that. And so your body adapts in both good and bad ways.
Yeah. You
Yes.
stopped using it.
Yeah. So really, it's trying to encourage people to move more positions. And it's not about forcing it, it's about a gradual process. That's it. We understand that if you can't run a marathon and you've never even run a 5K, first of all, you need to be able to run 100 meters, then a kilometer, then your 5K. And we gradually build up to that. You don't go out. No sensible person is going to go out and think, oh, I've never run for 20 years. I'm going to go and try and run a marathon now. Yeah. Or stick 200 kilos on a bar and you've never lifted it. We understand you need to go through a process. But when it comes to simple things like a squat, well, you haven't squatted since you were a child. I can't do it, so we just dismiss it. Well, actually, you can still go through the same development program. We just need to break it down. But it's not going to happen in a few weeks or a few months. It takes time. You've taken maybe 20, 30, 40 odd years to get to this point, but we expect things to happen just like that in the time scale of things to undo 20, 30, 40 years worth of evolution, if you like.
Yeah.
Okay. So we all need to move a little bit more to raise our daily activity. It's low stress on the body. But in actual fact, spending too much time in one position, I'm not going to blame sitting, any fixed position, standing, sitting, squatting, too much time in one position is not necessarily great for you. If you speak to somebody who's been in the armed forces and stood to attention for 2 hours on a parade ground,
it's not fun.
we think, I've got to stand upright, but these guys are going to have sore necks, backs, shoulders, hips, and all the rest of it for standing to attention.
Yeah, because it's not a natural position to stand in either. It's a very uncomfortable position to stand in.
Posture is dynamic. It's constantly moving. So it's not about head up, shoulders back. Yes, it's constantly shifting and adapting, and that's what we want. Yeah. So even if you're sat in an office chair, sit forward into your chair rather than leaning back. We think, I need a more supportive chair because my lower back aches. Well, actually, the best support is your body's systems. They're just undertrained, underworked.
Yeah, no, 100%. We're actually that's probably a good segue into the next bit that we wanted to talk about. So we've covered what to do as far as non-exercise activity goes, but exercise, in my opinion, I think because we've become so good at outsourcing all movement from our lives, we're in the position in this day and age where exercise needs to be something that we direct towards maintaining the full capability of our body. So full mobility of our joints, full function of our muscles. What, in your opinion, are the sort of standard base level things people should be doing, regardless of what sport they might enjoy, regardless of anything else that they're into? What would be the standard movements you would recommend everyone should be into?
Progressive, structured aerobic exercise, something to develop the cardiorespiratory system, and then resistance training. Okay. The World Health Organization actually gives us guidelines on this as well. So for cardio, it's 150 minutes a week of moderate intense exercise. What does that mean? Look, if walking gets your heart rate up to 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate, that's probably going to be aerobic exercise for you. Okay. But there's a clue there.
Yeah,
You're
it
not
shouldn't be that
that
hard.
fit, because that should be very low level activity.
Yeah,
So you actually need to do more development work where walking is very easy for you. Okay.
yeah,
We need ideally a minimum of 2 strength training sessions a week. Minimum of 30 minutes is the guideline. But again, there's nuance with all of this stuff as well. We can't, I think, let's use 3 leg exercises as an example. You've got a squat, a leg press, and a leg extension. Out of all 3, most people will say that the leg extension is very easy to learn. Great. Yeah. That it appears to be very safe to use as well. And you can feel a nice contraction in your thigh going on. Very easy to get that pump.
yeah.
From a hypertrophy perspective, the leg extension is probably the best at developing your rect fem muscle of your quadriceps. Okay. But will it improve your leg press?
Probably not that much.
No.
No,
Okay. Will it improve the way that you walk, run, or jump?
no.
Not to a significant degree. Now, leg press, on the other hand, is probably out of all 3 the best for most people for overall leg hypertrophy, increasing your muscular size of your thighs. Great, but will that help you run and jump higher, further, faster?
Probably not.
No. Okay, but the squat, there's plenty of evidence that that will.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I'm not saying that a leg extension doesn't have a use. It's certainly very useful in some rehab scenarios, certainly has use around development of the rec fem that I mentioned. In some scenarios, a leg press, again, may be relevant. But what I'm interested in is developing more capable human beings. And it's about developing a kinetic chain, not a muscle group or
Yeah,
just a muscle, sorry, a body part. So a squat is a full body movement. There's balance, there's
yeah.
neuromuscular coordination going on there, but a squat by itself is still not enough to develop the muscles of the hip, of the knee, and the lower leg and ankle complex as well. And it's bilateral rather than unilateral. So we're using 2 limbs at once rather than one. So we do need more. Okay.
Yeah.
But if we think about what we're designed to do, and that's fundamentally move through space, so walk and run, we do need to look at building that ability or increasing the uh, the, the the potential of doing that more effectively, efficiently for us. Okay, so you might be able to squat a house, but does that mean you can run and jump well or walk well? Unlikely.
Mhm.
Okay, and we see that with powerlifters where they kind of waddle. They might be able to squat 3, 4, 500 kilos, but actually they're some of the worst athletes that move well as a human in
Yeah.
everyday life. Okay, been there, can say that. So, um, how to work out what you need in terms of an exercise? It's got to start with an assessment.
Mhm.
You need to understand where your body's at and therefore the areas that you need to focus on for the lowest hanging fruit. The unfortunate part of that is it does require an awful lot more skill and knowledge to be able to do that and then understand the outcomes and then understand the tools that you need to improve the parts that you need to
Mhm.
improve. Okay. So this gets confusing in terms of people turn around and say, I know what I'm doing. Look, when you start exercise, any exercise, if you're coming from a very low bar or a very low position, almost anything you do will make you fitter, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
But that you run out of road very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think running is a great example here of you start running, the heart and lungs develop and adapt very quickly. So within 2, 3, 4 weeks, you start to feel better. You start to notice that you can feel an effect in being able to breathe deeper, more freely.
Yeah.
Yes. So your times start to come down. So you start to run a little bit further and a little bit faster. A few months down the line, maybe your muscles start to feel a little bit stronger. Okay, so they start to respond. So again, that spurs you on to run a little bit further and a little bit faster. Fantastic. But running has, unfortunately, certainly for middle ages in life, if they're returning to running, has a very high incidence of injury. It's not that
Yes.
running is bad for you. How you run will impact the load of the tissues. And also,
Yeah.
as well, different tissues have different adaptive rates. So heart and lungs respond very quickly. You've then got muscles follow along, tendons, fascia take a little bit longer to adapt than that as
Yeah.
well. Okay. So if you get injured and you stop, you then turn around and say, well, running's bad for you because it hurt me. Is it
Mhm.
running that's bad, or was it your load management strategy
Yeah.
and was it your running mechanics?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's definitely the running mechanics. But I've been ACL deficient in my left leg for over 2 decades now, and I don't like running.
You've got other options.
Yeah.
Bike is great whether you want to get out on two wheels outside or on a cycle or a stationary bike, a rower. You've got the
Mm.
air bikes as well. So there are lots of different options there. Running will always be the number one
Mhm.
because we're upright and it's easy to get your heart rate higher.
Yeah.
The more sitting down, you can't get your heart rate as high if you're prone. So, for example, swimming again, you're not going to get your heart rate as high as if you're upright.
Yeah.
So, it's not that any exercise is bad, but let's face it, that for most people, they've got a really busy, stressful life, whether they've got a
Yeah.
job, they've got a mortgage and bills to pay. They've got a spouse. They might have children. They might have aging parents with their own health problems. Possibly you're the duty taxi driver for the kids with after school clubs. Life is hectic.
Yeah.
So what you want is something that provides the biggest bang for its buck.
Mhm.
So we know that aerobic exercise and strength or resistance training are by far the most effective forms of exercise for their respective parts. Anything else below that, or other than that, rather, I'm not saying doesn't have its benefits, but let's use the right tool for the right job.
Mhm.
Okay. So you're looking for the big wins.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, I know you go to the gym. What do we do? It's very easy to understand and break down muscle parts. So let's think
Mhm.
biceps and triceps and pecs. So we can't, right, I need some curls here. I need some push downs for triceps. I need some bench press or something for my pecs. But great. How does that help you move better as a human? How's that
Just
going to
bear
help?
with me, Toby. I just need to plug my computer back in. It's going to die.
Okay, mate.
Oh, there we go.
Squat power now.
Yeah. All good.
So yeah, how do those things help you move better? How do they help you to function better as a human?
Mm.
Looking great, I get it, and that's nice. We all want to look better. But just because you look better doesn't mean to say you move better or more
Yeah.
effectively. And it's very easy to get drawn into numbers. Oh, I've just added 20 kilos to my bench press. Great. How's that going to help you put your pants and socks on when you're 80?
Mm.
Or get
Well,
off the
not even
get
that.
off the
Not even
floor?
that. You watch the form of most people in the gym and the free weight section, and I was horribly guilty of this myself. Well, you take like a shoulder press, for example. It's there, up, and then back to 90 degrees. And yeah, they'll stack weight on, and as they stack weight on, that movement starts to become shallower and shallower and shallower, where your shoulder is made to go through an entire range of motion. No one ever trains from the very bottom, or very, very few people do.
It's more than that. The shoulder's the most mobile joint in the body, and it's not just about the glenohumeral joint here,
Mm.
but we've also got the
Uh,
scapula as well.
yeah.
So we need flexion, extension, internal, external rotation, adduction, abduction. And so if we take a different lens and not just think about muscles, but think about the function of a joint, your
Mm.
training takes on a different perspective. But it's not just about the shoulder. How does that shoulder combined with the movement of the spine. How does the right
Yes.
shoulder work with the left hip when we walk?
Yeah.
Okay, and vice versa. And then we've got the opposite side of the body. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do shoulder press, but even seeing you do that very quickly, I'm spotting something there that tells me, well, there's something underlying that you don't have that full range of shoulder flexion, because I'm seeing something else move as a compensation. So in terms of deciding what you need to move, it comes back to everything starts with an assessment.
Yeah.
Yes. Bodybuilding has been great, popularized by Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the 70s. And bodybuilding training is relatively easy to understand. You can break down,
Yeah.
most people say, well, that's my chest and that's a bicep, those are my thighs. And we can break that down into movements and we can get a pump. And we know for hypertrophy, we want to train slightly closer to failure than not to get that increase in muscle size. Strength is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Power is different again, speed different, very, very, it's different yet again. So it's not as simple as if I do one thing, I'm going to get better in all other areas.
Yeah.
Okay. So we lose strength quicker than we lose muscle size, but we lose power at twice the rate of strength.
Yeah.
So we do need to include, most men out there, and ladies, it doesn't hurt either, would do well to add another 4 to 6 kilos of lean muscle mass to their frames. There are a lot of men out there, even who lift weights, who are under muscled, yet over fat, confusing muscle for, or confusing fat for muscle. So, but do they have the strength to match that? Arguably not. Do they have the power? No.
Definitely.
So we know power has a greater link to reducing falls risk than strength alone. So you can be as big as you like, but we're not seeing many 140 kilo lean 80-year-olds.
No.
Well, I don't know of any, actually. A lot of the big guys, they're either dropping the weight. The Rock is, well, we don't know the real reason behind The Rock, whether it's for another acting role or if it's for health reasons. But he's a great example at the moment. But a lot of the big bodybuilders are unfortunately passing away. Lots of complications for lots of complex reasons as well.
Yeah.
But mass is mass. It's a strain on the heart. So it again comes back to heart is the most important muscle in the body. So in terms of exercise, yes, we can do something, and that should be encouraged. And I think the fitness industry has been in the position for the last 20 years of encouraging this message of just do something. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But hang on. More people now have a gym membership or run or cycle or do Pilates or yoga or do a spin class. More people now are exercising, yet why are health stats
Lower than ever. Yeah.
lower than ever? Why are disease stats increasing? So it's not just about exercise, it's much more than that.
Yeah.
But exercise isn't a hobby, but we treat it as a hobby. We treat it as though it's fun and I enjoy it, great. But you do these things when you have time, when life permits, so you're always trying to find the time. But when we look at, I need to make time. Just like work, when you feel ill, I know you've got it feeling a bit grotty at the moment. You're still at work.
Yeah, exactly. You still do what you've got to do.
You still got to pay your mortgage, still got to pay your bills, still got to make food for the kids in the evening, even though you probably don't feel like it.
Yep.
Why are we not taking that approach with our physiology?
No, we should. We absolutely should.
Don't feel like it today, feel a bit tired, feel a bit sore, so I won't. Oh, it's been a really long day, I've been caught up. You've just not planned for it and it's not a priority for you.
I agree. I think people should. There's a minimum requirement that people should build into their lifestyles, and be sure to look that from the perspective of it's the minimum investment, and it's a daily investment.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned it last time, Rich. Most professionals, men and women, when it comes to their careers, super organized. their diary is planned to the nth degree for the week, the month ahead. So they have the organizational and planning skills.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to their private life, particularly around meal planning, meal prep, exercise, activity, getting their daylight, getting to bed at a decent time to get the 7 or 8 hours that they need, it's all a shit show.
Yeah.
Because it's not planned. Yeah, they think, oh yeah, at 7 o'clock tonight, I'm going to go to the gym or go for a run. Then something else happens and it kind of gets in the way and it doesn't happen. But that doesn't happen in the workplace.
Right.
Yeah. So I think in terms of a mindset, we need to look at exercise as a necessity rather than an optional, nice to do thing, which for so many people, that's what it is. It's a hobby.
Yeah.
You do it when you're inclined to, you have the time and availability to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I do find though that it helps me stay consistent if I do something that I actually enjoy doing. So
Definitely.
having that alignment between enjoyment is fantastic from a helping with the consistency point of view. But you're absolutely right. It needs to be in the priorities in your life. It has to be something that's a necessity.
If you're new to or getting back into some sort of exercise, go and find something that you enjoy. And I don't care what it is. It could be dancing, it could be running, it could be kiteboarding, surfing, wall climbing. Doesn't matter what it is. Go and do something.
Yeah.
Build a routine, build the habit. Once you've built the habit, then work out what your body needs to thrive. And it's those areas that I've just gone over.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's going to keep you doing the things that you love for longer.
Yeah.
So on the board, how many 80-year-olds do you see out there in the sea?
Not very many, although I will say that there are a lot more people north of 50 today than what I remember there being when I was a youngster.
Okay, we've got a generation of surfers and kiteboarders coming up that are aging, but we don't see many 70 and 80-year-olds. If they are, they're like rocking horse shit. They're the unicorns. Okay.
Yes.
So if this is something that you really enjoy and you've got a real passion about, I'm all for that, Ricky. But then work out, look, what do I need to do
Mm.
to keep doing that in the decades ahead?
Yeah.
The being on the board, that's a skill. That's a very specific skill. But you're then going to need to maintain lots of other different qualities to keep you in that game for a long time. And what we see is people dropping off. And I think I'm going to use running as an example. Running is awesome activity or an awesome way to keep aerobically fit, getting outside, awesome for mental and emotional health as well. We get to a point where men and women start to get the achy, injured knees. Yeah, maybe a hip. They start to maybe wear a knee support. Yeah, then I need a more supportive knee support. I need to go to more spongy, more supportive trainers to help as well reduce the shock. How many people are working on strengthening the areas of the body that is neglected through running?
Yeah, probably not many.
I think runners by and large are becoming a little bit more intelligent. More people are doing, certainly those serious runners are doing more strength training. They're cross training to keep them in the game, which is good. But we get to a point where 50s and 60s was, look, I can't run anymore. It's just too painful. So they take up cycling. Awesome. They're still doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. But what are they going to do to overcome those sore achy parts that they've had that have prevented them from continuing running? Because cycling will last them so long, and there are certainly more 70-year-olds cycling. That's awesome. But getting on and off the saddle, getting your leg over the saddle when in your 70s becomes more problematic, particularly on a race style of bike.
Yeah.
Yes. So what are you doing to do that? But again, cycling is very limited in mobility of the hips, and also it's just concentric, only contraction rather than eccentric. So again, we just want that balance. But is cycling going to help you get on and off the floor in your 70s and 80s,
No.
or even help you to put your pants and socks on. If you see guys trying to put the power down through the pedals on a bike and they go into spinal flexion, they start rounding their spine, quite often that can be a case of because they've run out of hip flexion. So they make up for it by creating more space through spinal flexion, rather than ignoring the underlying issues that are going on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. For me in surfing, like I've just been surfing last week and looking at the footage, the wave pool down in Bristol's got a partnership with a company called Flow State who've got cameras up and record each session, and they use artificial intelligence to track you and then put together a compilation of every wave that you've caught. Fantastic bit of kit. And you can sit after the fact and watch all your waves back, and you can just see, like, I surfed competitively in my youth, and I was never like world champion material, but I was very competent and I did well in my local scene and local circuit and stuff like that. And I remember what that used to look and feel like. And then I'm in the water now and it doesn't feel right. And then watching it back and you go, those hips and the hips and knee, like the movement necessary is strained. And that's an area that I need to work more specifically on.
Yeah, also as well, when you were younger, you had the ability to react far more quickly, was a lot better than when you were younger than where you are right now in your life. So there's that you no longer have that ability. Certainly practicing, you'll get better at it, and it's just trying to improve your skill to compensate for the lack of the physical qualities that you've lost through age. Affects us all, but do remember that the rate and the magnitude of these qualities that we lose through age can be mitigated by the work we either do or don't do. Okay. And so many people blame, or age is blamed for lack of work.
Yes.
Yes, or they blame something else. Maybe it's an old injury. I can't do that's my age because I've got a dodgy knee, I've got a dodgy back. Well, okay, what have you done to overcome that?
Well, I'm probably the prime example of that. I've had no ACL in my left leg since 2004. And I've surfed, I've been in the military, I've done mixed martial arts, I've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like I've not let that deny me doing the things that I enjoy doing. And to make that happen, I've had to make sure that I build the quads as strong as possible, I build the hamstring as strong as possible. The knee still slips, the two halves, they slip over each other. I'm walking with a limp at the moment because the surfing I did last week, there's something about the angle on your backhand, your backside, that the knee just slips more easily versus being on your front side. And so I had constantly slipping while in the water and actively being on the waves. And then so it's a bit swollen and unhappy with me at the moment, but that'll go down in a few days. And you can definitely do things to enable you to still function regardless of the injury or the lack of ligaments or whatever the case may be. You can still, if you want to, you can still allow yourself to enjoy the things that you enjoy.
If we look at athletes, professional athletes, if they get injured, rehab almost becomes their full-time job.
Yeah.
Because their body, their ability to perform is their profession. It's what brings in the pennies for them. Okay, so instead of thinking about high performance, rehab now is my full-time job. I'm probably seeing a physio every single day, and they are speaking directly to my strength and conditioning coach, and we've got a team of communication going on to get me back onto the field or back into play as soon as realistically possible. Okay.
Yeah.
What we do though is we hurt ourselves. We kind of suck it up for a few days begrudgingly, pop a few pills, still not getting better. So I go and see a doctor, go and see a physio, and the physio might say, come back in a fortnight. They're going to give you some exercises as well to do in between. But I've got some very good friends who are physios, and physiotherapy is largely 10% the practitioner, 90% on the individual.
Yeah.
The the adherence of those rehab exercises is notoriously poor, because
Yeah.
a lot of people's expectations is you go and see a physio, they're going to plug you into a machine that's going to make you feel better, give you a little bit of manipulation, a soft massage, make you
Yeah.
feel better. But actually, that doesn't improve the quality of those tissues. It doesn't strengthen those tissues. That onus is on you. Are you addressing your sleep quality and quantity? What about your nutrition that plays into this as well? And then we blame you. Will you see through a full 12 weeks of physio? Most people won't. Ideally, a physio would want to see you possibly 2 or 3 days a week
Mm-hmm.
for 12 weeks. And that's like early stage rehab. It doesn't mean to say rehab is finished. You then
Yeah.
go into more progressive rehab as well to come back fully. But we don't. I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm just going to ease back into what I was doing before. But easing back is just another way of saying I've no idea what I'm doing. Take it easy for a couple of sessions, and then bang, re-injure ourselves.
Yeah, I had exactly that. I first snapped the ACL in my left knee in 2003 playing rugby. I had it replaced, went through the rehab, but at that age, I mean, I was 18 at the time. I had never trained seriously for anything. My fitness and my ability to do the sports was because I enjoyed doing the sports and I played the sports that I played. Um, and so I didn't take the rehab as seriously as I should have. I just sort of went through the motions, did what I thought was the sort of minimum necessary, and then I tried to get back into the sports that I enjoyed, and just playing the sports was going to be fine. Snapped it again almost a year later to the day, and then went and had it taken out and didn't have it replaced again. But I've got a surgery coming up again now. Probably, well, I'm just waiting for the date to be confirmed, but I'm hoping for early January 2026, which will be replacing the ACL that's been missing for over 2 decades. But I know now that rehab is going to be definitely serious business, because the quality of that rehab determines my ability to then surf and do the things that I enjoy. And not just the sexy stuff, the enjoyable stuff, basic stuff like getting up the stairs, getting down the stairs without discomfort, getting in and out of chairs, playing with my kids, getting myself up and down off the floor. Like the surgery is going to lead to atrophying of my leg and the loss of function of that joint. And how I build that back up afterwards is either going to leave me better off than what I am right now, which is obviously the aim, or I'm going to be left worse off than what I am right now, which is what I don't want.
The rehab process is on us, but we try and outsource it onto a third party, a physio. And we often forget that it's down to us to do the work.
Yeah.
I had my last knee surgery. I was 39, just before my daughter was born. And whilst it was minor, it was just a keyhole meniscus surgery. I got signed off by the surgeon, what was it, 4 or 6 weeks post-surgery, whatever it was. And he
Yeah.
said, yeah, that's fine, all clear, carry on with your life as normal. For me, it took me 2 years to get back the knee function and range that I wanted. Yes. So whilst I could stand and I could walk and do everything that the consultant wanted on my post-operative check, actually it still didn't give me the ability that I actually wanted. At the end of my powerlifting career, even though I'd been using, the amount of weight doesn't matter, they're silly weights. But I had to rebuild my ability to squat, because being able to squat with a huge amount of weight in competition is very different from your ability to sit in a resting squat. I can still squat a lot of weight, but it looks very different. But that was 10 years in the making at the end of my powerlifting career, Ricky. And if you've seen me do a pistol squat on LinkedIn, I can do a pistol squat cold, anytime, anywhere, no warm up. It's not, for me, a pistol squat is not a high level of movement. It's a base level of movement, but I've had to work at that.
Yes.
And what we look at is, if we can imagine an iceberg, we look at the tip of the iceberg. That's what you can see. What you don't see is the volume of stuff that's happened beneath the surface. And so when people say, oh, it's all right for you, I've got osteoarthritis in my knee, or I've had this knee injury. Well, yeah, same here. But you just haven't done the work over a long period of time. And that's
Correct.
what it is. You can't shortcut your way to recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't.
You also never arrive. It's constant work. It's daily work. It's daily investment.
Yes. So whilst I would say your health, your physical ability is not a right, it's earned.
Yeah.
It's like rent that's due every single day.
Yes.
Yes. So what you just because maybe you ran or did something at uni, fantastic. But if you're a 40, 50, 60-year-old person now, it doesn't mean to say you know what you're doing, because your body's very different from when you're in your early 20s.
Yep.
There's very few life pressures. Yeah. And your cells have all turned over and replaced themselves, are probably nowhere near as resilient as they used to be. So we need a different strategy. And I said to you last week that the principles of training and nutrition never ever change. The systems that we use will need to be adapted accordingly based upon your current capacity. But people don't always understand systems, they think of methods. Yes, we see this in the gym or with running, like whether it's hits, supersets, or strip the bar or whatever it might be. Well, what system does that actually fit in for you? And it just requires a little bit more thought and a lot more planning, which we don't always want to give. Well, some people don't want to understand that. They not or what may not be aware that that's there, or just I want to turn up and just do something. But if you're just turning up and doing something, how do you know where you really are, and how do you know what you actually really need? Because if you don't, you're just playing at it.
Yeah.
And so we're coming back to your surfing. Go and do that. You love that. That's amazing. What qualities, what work do you really need to do? And it's the
Yeah, I
boring
need to figure
stuff.
out the cross training necessary to maintain, because the other problem that I have is I don't, at this point in time, and I hope to fix this going forward, but at this point in time, I don't get to surf often. I surf maybe once or twice a year.
Okay.
So the cross training that I do really is the thing that determines whether I can or can't surf.
So this ties nicely into how you started this, the difference between general activity, structured exercise, and sport. Sport is very niche.
Yes.
But if we train in a way that it provides us with the capacity and the ability to go and do things that we want when we want, surfing 2, 3, 4 times a year, whether you want to go for a 40-kilometer hike with the kids and you end up having to carry one for most of the distance because they're tired and too young, you've not trained specifically for that, but rather you can do that with little thought and little effort by way of all the other work that you've done. So training, exercise should make you better at life. It should add value and quality your life. So I hear guys of, yeah, I would do that, but I had a massive leg workout 3 days ago and I'm really sore. Well, it's just like, got it all wrong. If it's made you so sore that you can't move, what if you're walking down the street and your kid walks out in front of the road and a car comes running at speed in the corner and you don't have the ability to leap into the action because you're too frigging sore? We need to grow up. And certainly, if I see that guy still in guys in 40s, 50s, and 60s with that mentality. It's great in your 20s and to a degree in your 30s. But at what point are we going to grow up? Yeah, because life is about what happens today and tomorrow, not I've been affected from stupid stuff I did a few days ago or a few weeks ago.
Yeah. No, for sure. Actually, funny, this morning, driving my daughter to school, we get to traffic lights in Overton, and is an elderly man. If I was to guess his age, I'd say he was in his early 60s. So not geriatric old, but a little bit past middle age. And he's decided he's going to be lazy and he's going to cut across the road rather than getting to the crosswalk and crossing there. And as he starts cutting across the road, he's mistimed this horribly because he's got himself right in front of my car and the light's gone green for me. So I just gave a gentle little rev to get his attention, and he shat himself, and he attempted to launch into a sprint to get across the road, and he almost landed flat in his face. Like his ability to do that quick burst of activity was horrendous. It wasn't good at all. I sat there for a second. I thought, oh dear, I'm going to have caused a fall here and have to get out and help the dude. Managed to catch himself, just got across the road, but you could see he was visibly shook because he had now nearly fallen and had quite a fall.
We men more than women. Women are far more realistic. Men, we all think we're capable of more than we can. We all think we can fight the mugger, or yes, but we don't rise to the occasion. We fall to the level of our preparation.
Yeah.
And I'll share a story with you from a few weeks ago. So I was in a park just behind me with my wife and my daughter, and all of a sudden, attention was to drawn to some shouting. I heard a man's voice shouting and a woman's voice shouting. Turned round, and the scenario was there was a young child, goes to the same school as my daughter. The parents go there as well. It's a young child who is, I don't know, 40, 50 meters away from parents, who's got a ball. The shouting from the woman was from a dog owner. The dog was in full-on sprint towards the child and was not responding to the dog owner's commands of recall.
Mm.
It wasn't a big dog. It wasn't a dangerous dog. It was some sort of spaniel. I'm not a dog expert. Hit the child. Child got knocked off its feet, but the dog was after the ball.
Mm.
What happened in the process, though, was the father shouting was on the ground, I think having a picnic or something going on, but got up and broke into a sprint. Within a dozen or so feet, he'd limped, grabbed his hamstring and collapsed to the ground. I'm suspecting he popped his hamstring. Now, this guy's mid-30s. So he's not old at all.
Yeah, he's not over the hill.
He's writhing around. He can't get back up. If you've ever popped a hamstring, it's bloody
it's not
painful.
fun.
It's awful. So he's looking at his child with his dog charging towards his child, and there's nothing that he can do about it because he's out of action.
Mm.
He didn't rise to the occasion. He fell to his level of preparation and he hurt himself.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, it was just simply that this over-friendly, over-exuberant dog got excited by the door, took the child off its feet, but was after the little ball that it had, and owner was really embarrassed and apologetic and all the rest of it. Now, that could have ended so differently.
Yeah, that can be a very different scenario.
And certainly as fathers, we take on this role as provider and protector towards our families. But when it comes down to it, how capable are we really in a scenario like that? Again, if you were to have a stroke or a heart attack, chances are you're going to live because modern medicine is great now. But how's that going to impact your quality of life? And it's not just about you, it's your family as well. Because instead of being a provider or a protector, you're now a burden and you're being looked after.
Yeah.
So I believe in self-respect and respecting physiology, but also doing it for your family, those that love you. But absolutely. You don't deserve anything. I don't deserve anything. I've got to put the work in. Yeah. But my family deserves that I build my health to its highest possible capacity. There's no guarantee to mitigate any potential disease or conditions. That's all it is. It's risk mitigation. But seeing this young chap, and he was young, certainly compared to me, pop a hamstring and be totally useless, couldn't save his child from the impending collision. But what if that dog had mauled the child? Doesn't bear thinking about.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I like that phrase. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of preparation. I'm going to steal that. That's brilliant.
Please do. Please do. I think it's so fitting for so much about health. We do you know what? There are, as well as I do, there are some diseases that have a high genetic component. But most of the common diseases out there, including some cancers, are lifestyle related, Ricky.
Oh, it's even better than that, because when the whole field of genetics and stuff started to get mapped out, and they started to figure out that there are genes that are more, or rather, genes that leave you with a predisposition for certain outcomes. So there's absolutely a genetic component for cancers, for example. We now know through the continued studies of epigenetics that is not a life sentence, from the respect of those genes are not just on, you have them and therefore that's the end of it. They actually turn on and off. Your gene expression is dictated by your lifestyle and environment. So you may have a genetic predisposition for something, but your lifestyle and environment determine whether those genes are actually being expressed or not.
Absolutely. Like, genetics load the gun,
yes,
lifestyle pulls the trigger.
100%.
Okay. And the trouble is, none of us want to admit fault with lifestyle. It's not about perfection. I don't believe in perfection. It doesn't exist. I can only strive for perfection.
Yeah, it's
But
consistent.
too many of us don't want to lay or be objectively critical of our own lifestyle, because that means the fault lies with us. It's too easy to blame genetics. It's too easy to blame it on someone or something else, an old injury.
Yeah.
It's my parents' fault. It's the way I've been brought up, or what have you. Well, actually, there's choices. You have a choice in actions that you take every single day. And health isn't static, it's dynamic. So every choice and action you take is either taking you closer to being healthy, or it's taking you further away. And it's these micro decisions that add up. It's not about one bad day, one bad meal. It's not about that one skipped workout this week.
Right.
But that one skipped workout a week, once or twice a month over 20 years, is huge. So consistency in actions also play a huge amount. Over 20 years, Ricky, I can tell you how many workouts I've missed. I can count that on one hand and have fingers left over.
Nice.
For me, training is not an option.
Yeah.
It's as important to me as eating. It's as important as sleeping and breathing. It's consistent. So when people say, look, I'm roughly 11.5% body fat, I'm 50 years of age, I don't want to say physically what I can do in terms of numbers, because I have very high standards of myself. But I do class myself as a high performer.
Yeah.
It's not easy for me. I've had to overcome my own hurdles, but everything that I've got and am able to do now, I've had to work for and work hard for consistently over decades, not just a couple of weeks or a summer's worth to look good.
Yeah.
And it's not just about training. I mentioned nutrition. It's sleep, it's stress management, it's daily movement, it's getting outside, it's respecting my circadian rhythm, it's my relationships as well. So we can lay blame on it's not my fault. Well, it ain't mine. Yeah. Or sorry, if I say it's not my fault, it sure as hell isn't your fault, Ricky.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But for my condition, we've got to accept or start taking more responsibility. And we can say that the NHS requires more funding. Brilliant. That's healthcare. That's emergency care. But health care starts with us. It's my body. It's my responsibility. And if you need a joint replacement, a knee replacement, because and outside of a car accident, what have you, basically, you probably screwed up because you didn't listen or didn't understand how your body was moving at the time, and has just overloaded it, and it's worn, torn, what have you, over time. Okay, so let's take back some responsibility for our health in every single facet. Yes. and move forward. But I want to kind of wrap this up by saying doing something is better than nothing. Great. We've had that message for over 20 years. Let's move
Yeah.
forward. Let's hit
Yeah.
the minimum standards. Let's exceed the minimum standards. Yes, raise the standards rather than trying to lower them, because now we're at a point where a 10-minute walk is classed as exercise. Really? That we've lowered the bar that low that a 10-minute walk is now classed as exercise,
Yeah, no, it's not.
which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And no wonder we're in a position where people class themselves as fit and healthy because, well, I see him doing a 10-minute walk and I'm a little bit better than him, so I'm fit and healthy. And we look around for the least healthiest, the fattest person amongst our contemporaries, and we go, well, I'm not that bad, so I'm all right as I am.
Yeah, it's a game of not being the worst.
Yeah, but the standard has dropped so low that actually average is not a good place to be. You can be a little bit better than average, and that's not difficult. But that still doesn't mean to say that you are in a good place. The standards are out there, and if you don't know what they are, ask, go and seek them out.
Yeah. And I like that, Toby. And I like the way that you framed that at the end there as well, because the agency really is on the individual. Like no one, your health is not something that someone else can do for you. You can't outsource it. You have to put in the work to look after your physiology, and you have to turn up for yourself consistently if you want to enjoy the outcomes. If you're not doing that, you're not going to get the outcomes.
Yeah, I can reframe this as well from a personal perspective, Ricky. I'm 9 years older than my wife, which to other men might sound great, and on paper that is great. And when we first met, it's like it was a nice badge to wear and a bit of a bragging point. But the reality is, women outlive men by 5 years.
Mhm.
I've got a 15-year, 14, 15-year gap I need to make up so we can die within a similar time
Yeah.
span together. Okay. So for me, I'm not interested in living to 100. It's not about lifespan. For me, it's about health span. But equally, I don't want to be that burden for my wife because
Yes.
I can't get dressed. I can't get on and off the toilet, and I can no longer cook or do much housework for her because I am that older partner that she has. Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not just about what I can do now. I'm firmly fixed on my health pension and quality of life in my 70s and well deep into my 80s. Because if my wife was to live to 80, well, actually, I've got to get into my 90s because if my wife was to live to mid 80s, I need to be a good mid 90s.
Yeah.
To be there with my wife because she's openly said, I don't want to have a long period of time after you die, if at all.
Yeah.
Because my grandmother was single after my grandfather died for 40 odd years.
Sure. Yeah.
And she was she had a wide social group of friends. But when you go home and you're by yourself, she was lonely. And that's so prevalent. So loneliness in old age is a huge thing. And human connections, social connections are a huge part of emotional and mental health, particularly for older people. But another part of that is we need the physical capacity so we can go out to socialize.
Yes.
So I can step out the front door without fear of falling. I can go and take a bus. I can climb up the steps on the bus without fear of falling. I can climb down the steps off the bus without fear of falling.
Yeah.
But when we lose that confidence and therefore we lose the ability, we stop going out and our life becomes much smaller. And then we're reliant upon friends and family visiting us. And you see the curtain, I call them curtain twitchers. Yes, with the elderly, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be a natural part of aging.
Yeah. I agree. Well, Toby, I think we'll wrap up there. That's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you for your time, sir.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Ricky.
We'll have you back for one more where we will get into how someone can go from 0, not doing anything, and just walk them through a basic protocol, how they might get toward the things that we're talking about today.
Great stuff.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the episode. I hope that you found the conversation meaningful and informative, and I hope that it has empowered you with some tools and insights that you can take to tweak and improve your own lifestyle approach in pursuit of optimal metabolic health outcomes. If you've enjoyed the episode, and if you're enjoying the podcast, I'd like you to do me the kindness of please subscribing to the channel, giving it a like, maybe even giving it a share. Help to raise awareness and get the podcast in front of as many viewers as possible, because it is my passion to try and help as many people as possible to understand more of the nuance around metabolic health and how to tweak their lifestyle in pursuit of optimal outcomes. Also, if you have any constructive feedback, things that you think I could improve on, any critiques, any criticisms, please do feed them back. I give you my solemn word that I will take them seriously, and I will, to the best of my ability, work to improve and to give you a more refined and more targeted product as a result of your feedback. So I will take it seriously, and I'll do what I can to improve the show. But again, thank you very much for watching. Keep thriving.